And so I was serving under a man called Pukuta Mwanza. He's passed away now. And so that was the first job. That was now the new job.
Yes.
And that was during that period of time.
Okay.
Is when I realized, yep, I think I'm ready to try music full time. Because it was like there's a lot it was building up towards, and it was a great time, when the momentum of SATA winning the elections. It was, I think by that time I knew Pompi, because during that, because even while I was serving as youth pastor, we had met Pompi with Magnus, Ian, and they said, oh, this is Pompi, and I'd known Pompi as a secular artist. So then when he'd given his life to God, so I had been doing a Bible study. Oh, this is a crazy thing. I've been doing a Bible study at my church office, where I'd wanted, because when I was doing evangelism with when I came back, I started an evangelism team. So we'd go on the streets and hit the streets and just evangelize. It was the coolest thing. So when I try to do with artists, many of them tell me like, oh man, we love your gospel music, but I always feel like people, they were always worried about them. Whenever they went into a church, they were made the center of, everyone made them like a personal project to change them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All of a sudden, whichever pastor or whatever church they went to wanted to adopt them quickly as their son or their daughter, or, you know what I'm saying? So I said, okay, I'm going to do a Bible study for artists, and I am going to invite artists to come. And then all I'm just going to do is just
teach Jesus.
Yeah. And not going to say, go and quit your music, just pick a topic. I was going to tell me the topic. And the cool thing was, the first one I ever had, 2 guys showed up. Slap D, one of the biggest rappers in the country, and Pompi. Those are the first 2 guys. Both secular artists came through. And I remember we were talking about forgiveness. And it was very intimate. Just the 3 of us were talking, and I was sharing, and we were done. And at the end, I would introduce a topic, introduce a scripture, ask for everyone's interpretation, and people would go in, talk about stories and share. Then at the end, say, okay, this is what the Word of God says about how to deal with this issue. And the Bible study grew. Like, we would meet quietly with the secular arts and it was so cool. We had, such a good following. I think eventually there was a Christian voice started reaching out to me and wanted me to take over a show called the biggest youth show they had called New Gen.
Yeah.
So it was hard balancing the nights I had to do with New Gen because it was an 18-hour show. And those are the times I would do the Bible study like once a week. So the person I had take over at the time, I think they were trying to introduce some Calvinism and other stuff, and people just like, nah, bro.
Forget it.
It's like, nah, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just, again, like where people just lose, where you're trying to make the change. You know what I'm saying? Where you intentionally want to be the change of a secular artist.
Okay.
Rather than allowing the gospel to do the change.
I get it.
Trusting and believing. Like that story I told you. Why don't you just tell about Jesus? I told her about Jesus, and Jesus did Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
He doesn't need your help sometimes.
Yeah,
he doesn't need your help.
Exactly. So sometimes I find like when being an evangelist, you lead so many people to Christ, and then they started a church, and the church wants to take them through church. To become churched quicker than they want them to understand who they are in Christ.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people who are churched but not really understanding who am I really outside of this? Am I loved by God, or am I part of a group?
Yep.
And so
that's a huge problem in the church across Africa. Well, actually across the world, not even.
Oh yeah.
It's how do you and I don't mean separate yourself from the church, but how do you connect yourself to Christ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the time that we developed a relationship. Then I remember one day Pompi just left after we were talking. I forgot what the topic was at the time, and he just said, I think we're talking about glory or whatever, and he just, because I remember his post was like, I'm no longer gonna use he didn't say anything to us. He just said, I'm no longer gonna use my music to glorify. So I'm gonna use it to glorify God. And that was the announcement.
What?
And internet went crazy. People couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Artists, there's one called Israel, he's really big. He called him up, it's like, dude, because he used to use Exile back then. Called him up as well. Someone like, dude, what are you doing? But it was the change. It wasn't, again, I think even he would tell, it didn't come from, hey bro, this music that you're doing, you know? And I'm sure he'll tell you his own experiences of what he went through, but I know what we went through from from that experience. And there was a cool incident, because there was a time I invited him to come and speak to our youth, and because he was like, oh, but dude, like, are you sure you're inviting me to come and talk to you? I'm like, and all I just remembered was that aspect. What Marlon would say, just tell him your testimony, bro. And that was it. Just tell him your testimony. You're not coming to preach, just tell your testimony. What has Jesus done to you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that was a beautiful moment. That was great.
That's crazy.
So going forward, man, it was a great. So
do you invite him now to join this? At this time, is LOTA House there, or is it just you and Mag?
No,
and Ian?
so LOTA House was actually something that I think Pompi is the one who named it LOTA House. Okay. Yes.
But is it yet in the studio? It's coming. It's coming. It's on its way.
So it's getting there.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do at the time, so we're just becoming friends. You know what I'm saying? We're really just becoming friends and getting a chance to hang out. Mag and I have already been friends, and now Pompi's coming into the circle.
And you haven't released your first album?
No, I haven't released my first album.
Imagine that.
So imagine it.
5 hours in and nothing.
Hey, I'm telling you. So Pompi now we come into a 2011 PF wins. Huge just vibe change in the country.
There was hope. Guys were happy.
Guys were so happy. Oh my gosh, I'd never seen Zambians so happy, man. When the new government came in, it was so. I remember I was sitting in my home, and then they announced at midnight, and the next thing you just start hearing like, and people got up at midnight and went to Mulungushi where they were doing the counting. And I remember calling my brother, I'm like, you gotta come pick me up. You gotta come. I didn't have a car at the time, and he comes. And my wife and I jump into the car, and there's like 6 guys on our roof who just jump on along the way. And we just danced till like about 2-3 a.m. We saw people that we know. Oh, you're here. It was so much fun. It was so amazing. So now going, then somewhere in between December, Magnus goes. This is where I think LOTA House really, really, because before we're just putting out music, because Pompi would, I think by that time he had done Nipempela, which was also Chipolo Polo.
Yeah, and that whole Chipolo Polo, you have to stop and talk about that one.
Yeah.
Because that was the football song.
No, so there was his version, I think, of Chipolo Polo.
Oh, okay.
Then Magnus goes, one day, says, Chungu, let's do a song. I'm like, what? What do you want to do? It's like, let's do a football song. AFCON is kind of, I'm like, bro, you want to do a football song? He's like, yeah, bro, I just feel like you just never, he's like, we evangelize, right? But like, what if you evangelize through football? It's big, everybody loves football. I'm like, I don't know about this. So we all went to the studio one night. Me, Tio, Pompi, got in there, started making, I wrote a flow. Let me just say this, by the way.
Talk to this guy here. I
wrote a flow. A whole rap. Then the guy said, nah, bro, you don't rap, sing. I'm like, what? Sing, like, So that's when I just said, yo. So that's how I wrote it. And the day we're going to record, the day. So then, Kenny Rock goes, dude. So Max is like, dude, Kenny wants to shoot the video. Like, for real? It's like, yeah, let's shoot the video. We're gonna drive to a place called Kafue, which is about an hour, 40 minutes, an hour away. And we're gonna shoot it from there. And the day we're shooting is the day of Zambia's first game.
Ooh.
So we shoot this whole video by train station all day. We're having great time. So we're riding back. And then the conversation starts. Like, guys, do you think we're gonna win? Like, it's like, imagine if we, and the term was the whole thing. Imagine if we win the whole thing, like the actual tournament. And then I think Zambia's first game, they won like 3-1. And we're calling each other like, yo, what? And by the time Zambia won.
But the song was already out.
Yeah, because the video now is playing.
No, what happened now when you guys checked the video?
Oh,
like the reception.
It blew, because now the hype was, Chipolopolo vibe was happening. And so it even...
What's Chipolopolo? It's the name
Chipolopolo
of the
is
team.
a copper bullet.
Oh.
So that's the nickname for the team. Yeah, so then it was just, so because there's so many different Zambia songs, everybody was doing a Zambia song. So it came to that day. So it's almost like the success of the national team became synonymous with LOTA House.
What?
So full of passion, our hearts are tattooed champions, ever having victory whenever we be battling. Heart of a warrior, that's why we always going hard. No one can be stopping us, cause we are more than conquerors. Heart of a warrior, that's why we always going hard. No one can be stopping us, cause we are more than conquerors.
So it kind of like grew because everyone was wanting to play your song with that. And I think, and I don't know if that was the year, because then I think, yeah. So it blew. It just amazing.
And this was your first video officially.
All of us, yeah. So when we dropped, I think Pompi had already dropped another video. So now we are now like just in music mode. So everybody's project, 2012 was just an amazing year because we dropped Chipolopolo in the beginning of that year. And then I think I dropped Fire Shut Up in My Bones at the beginning of that year.
Yeah, the single.
The single.
Yeah.
And it caught just a huge momentum.
Come worship him and give him glory, for only he is truly worthy. Is it not he who shows us mercy, our God so lovely and full of grace? He sits upon that holy mountain, and on his word the earth was founded. Deep in his love is where I'm grounded. I'm still astounded by his grace. There's a fire skin no more. It's coming out to light. It's coming out, so there's a fire shut up in my bones, and I ain't scared no more. It's coming out to light. It's coming out, so there's a fire shut up in my bones, and I ain't scared no more. It's coming out to light. It's coming out, so there's a fire shut up in my bones, and I ain't scared no more. It's coming out to light. It's coming out to light.
By that time, and then I think they dropped Vichani that year. That was just that was next level. Like Vichani was just
introduced Kenya to
man.
gospel Zambia.
I am K-Rock. Let's go.
Monga mafrizi titi machilinga, monga tamenya kabebi chimalila, monga Nelson Mandela chimadiva. Hii ndiye life ya mabelieva. Funsa bakalijo batiziva, tili monga zeskolo chedi ntimazimya. Hey, monga mapomo timadimba, sindine nakatindi bati ineni mawina. Hey, uzani uzavichani iwe. Hey, uzani uzavichani iwe. Hey, uzani uzavichani ndine mwana wa mulungu, every day is a party. Hey, monga nilike jiniziva ansa, monga nibigini ninawina kudala. Yesu ni mukulu kulibe kushansha. You boys like the South African team dimwe bafana. Matipela maningi siti misiyani, monga mule na ngongole kwezani. Hey, no cigar with the Bacardi, it's the Holy Ghost high, every day is a
All my
party.
people in
Hey.
the station, go put your hands up if you got a question. Jesus is the answer. Got the place popping like letting off a hanger. Music breaking walls, got the spirit of a Samson.
Hey, uzani uzavichani iwe. Hey, uzani uzavichani iwe. Hey, uzani uzavichani ndine mwana wa mulungu, every day is a party. Hey, like footballs, how we're kicking it.
I'm telling you, and I was just like, yo, this is gonna be crazy, because again, remember I was doing that new gen. So I was still doing the radio show, and what I did with that show, which was really cool, is I did a survey with non-Christian youth. I said, what do you guys listen to? What do you like? What topics do you like? When do you think about God? On the Sunday morning after a hangover. What kind of music do you like listening? So the show is very interactive, but at the end, like the same way I did the Bible study, kick it off, get everybody, and then at the end,
Drop in the message.
You know what I'm saying? And keep you there. So there was funny enough, the girl even used to do the mobilization. So I started going to colleges and speaking to small groups. And the girl who would mobilize was Muslim.
Yo,
No kidding.
that's amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Ubi. She's a very great person. She would even say like, okay, there's this, because she's like, I love your music, you guys. Like, let's sit down. It's like, cool. And we sit down and we talk. 2 Muslim girls. They were my ground people. So when I would have these discussions, like, people be like, oh, your show you should play some sermons. I'm like, y'all are missing the point.
Yep.
And one of the things I honestly say, like, I began to understand, because when I was trying to pick the kind of ministry I was going to do, I picked youth ministry. And I could have done evangelism, could have done pastoral. But I remember what one of my instructors said. He says, and he came in and says, welcome to the most disrespected ministry that ever exists. He says, no one will ever take you seriously as an adult for as long as you live. They will put you in the category of their children, but like take an older version of their kid. And I'm just like, what? And he's like, yeah, that's youth ministry. You will be underfunded. No one's gonna ask you to pray for them. At least no one older or your age.
Yeah.
So I was like, Yo, and it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's true. And it just says, but I understood why, because I always, like I said, back, like same way I was from the beginning, I always wanted to be where it's being created. And when I look at church, where it's going to be in 10 years, I look at the youth.
Yep.
Their belief systems are what we're going to be believing 10 years from now. The mindset of what they're struggling. I remember 2008. I literally remember 2008. I was serving at a youth camp called Camp Decision. And I said to somebody, I said, in the next few years, America's going to be pro-gay. And somebody's like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I've been talking to a couple of kids here. It's going to be pro-gay. It's going to be hard for churches to not shake that off, no matter what they believe in. It's because when I remember one kid came up to me and says, what do it says, all the kids I go to school with, and he says, all the kids in my youth group believe people are born gay. What do I say? And we had a discussion about that. And so youth will give you the idea, the perspective, or what they think is meaningful, what they're fighting for. And the problem is that a lot of young people is that they're being recruited to fight for something that's not necessarily meaningful to them, but they're being told it's what matters the most. Meanwhile, their lives are not changing. And what hurts the most is black people being used for that. Black youth, predominantly females. But that's another story. Okay. I'll add on top later. So at this time you haven't decided to call yourself LOTA House. No, I don't think at the time by that time people know LOTA House. So LOTA House, what the thing that people need to understand about, from my perspective, my interpretation of LOTA House, is that LOTA House, even we had meetings about it, because we were like, okay guys, how are we gonna do this? Because we're all solo artists. We're all solo artists, and we all have a different perspective and why we're doing what we're doing. But when we come together, we come together for a cause. And I feel like LOTA House is when we come together, but we're all solo artists.
Yeah, and then you
and I appreciated that. And so we would come out and defend each other, because so many times it was changing a lot of things, and you realized how traditional many people were. Because I remember one of the first attacks that we had was Pompi performing at Big Brother. When he performed at Big Brother, and which a lot of people don't know, was how powerful his testimony of when he was there was. How the cameramen and people behind the scenes were so happy to have a Christian finally take that stage.
What? The upset that he performed as a Christian?
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, people were mad. A lot of people were mad.
What?
A lot of people were mad, man.
I thought you were going to tell me you went to perform there. He had become a Christian, then he was going to perform his Christian songs.
Nope. I mean, people were, again, because you have to understand, like, I'll explain this in this manner. So 3 incidences I'll tell you about. So Pompi performs at Big Brother. Huge thing, but also huge push, because people just get to see him on that one. Huge fan base grows, and as his fan base grows, my fan base grows, Paul Magnus' fan base, Tio's fan. It's like everything was working together. Another incident Ice Prince comes to Zambia. So my brother is working with the Nigerian embassy behind the scenes. He comes up to me and says, dude, Ice Prince is coming to Zambia. What do you think about getting a Christian rapper on that stage? I'm like, yeah. Who? Magnus. I call up Magnus. Were you game? It's like, yeah, let's do it. Cool. So we're like, man, right before that, Mag's gonna be. So we're singing from an evangelical point of view. Yo. And I'll explain why I came to understand that people hated it. So Mag does that. I remember I had something at church, and Pompi calls me. He's like, dude, Magnus is performing tonight at LIV, and it's a nightclub, because it's part of Ice Prince's tour. I'm like, yeah. He's like, bro, let's go. I'm like, let's go. So we go and we go straight to the back room and we're praying with Magnus, and we end up praying with other secular artists. And so he doesn't know what the reception is gonna be like. So the stage has got like a glass like mirror behind it. So even from the back room, if you look at an angle, you can see the crowd. So Magnus jumps on stage, and this is after, like, imagine there's a secular duo before him, and they've got like dancing queens and whatnot, trying to entertain the crowd. And the Magnus, all I just hear is, when I want, and I see people running from the back to the front because they can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's like, I love this song, but it's in on this setting where I can't believe I'm actually getting a chance to hear it.
Yep.
And they run there, and Magnus is performing. I think he did another. Then, boom, Vichani starts. Yeesh.
Vichani was huge, huh?
Yeah. So people are very. Then we walk out from the back. Their name is Pompi. Oh, people are going nuts. It is amazing. So now we're there, and it's just blessed, man. It's just like God is doing this thing new in a new environment. People are getting touched. For me, and we prayed for people, and for me it was Oktoberfest. Now,
I saw that one.
Oktoberfest. Oh man, Oktoberfest. Me doing Oktoberfest. Yo, hey, people, how could you? But this happened like 2013. So huge backlash, whatnot thing. But man, I'll never forget. After I finished that set, 12 people standing, waiting for me outside, behind the stage. All waiting to be prayed for, all telling different stories. I remember there was one crowd of guys, so even I was kind of nervous about that set. So I'd put a lot of lively tracks. It was one group of guys that started chanting, "We're weary and tired, we're weary and tired, we're weary." That's when I ended up starting to do Love Unleashed.
Oh, Love Unleashed.
Yes, they were crying for Love Unleashed.
Okay.
Drunk.
That's actually my favorite song of that.
Yeah. So
album.
They started crying for Love Unleashed. Yeah, it was 2015. So it was powerful. But from all of these experiences, when I saw the reaction, I came to understand something. It's the same thing that I noticed with 116. Is that when you do it's also part of why I'm taking this approach to the way I'm doing my music.
Yep.
For this new album. When anybody youth is presented to the youth, they're presented as an alternative. Youth pastors are presented as youth whisperers. Oh, it's okay for you to dress like that. We don't accept that kind of t-shirt. We don't accept you in a t-shirt and jeans, but dress like them because we need someone to talk to the youth. We accept that kind of music, not because we believe it has an impact, but the youth like it and we want to keep the youth. So you're an alternative. So, and when you're an alternative, understand that churches take their youth personal. These are our youth, these kids from our church. Whatever we allow them to listen to has got the stamp of approval from us. So you are a personal product of the church. So anytime you do anything that the world will say, even if it's the same songs, I go and do the same songs from my albums.
Yep.
It's bro, what are you doing? You should be singing at conferences. Because we were told you are ours.
Yep.
I was told to stop listening to Lil Wayne so I can listen to you. So how are you being accepted by the same crowd that will listen to Lil Wayne? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's kind of like, it's almost like they feel betrayed. So it's almost like they feel like, oh, you're leaving us, you are ours. You know what I'm saying? And that's what
deep.
I feel ends up happening. It's just that even when you're doing it right, it's wrong. I remember one time they attacked Magnus for that Ice Prince thing, and I went online, and at that time I was like very aggressive.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, you guys, and I went, and I said, okay, fine. If you guys think that you have a problem with this guy, come out, meet me Friday night, every single one of you. Let's go evangelize. Let's do it the traditional way, since you're all about reaching out souls. That night, I got to Sting. Only one guy showed up. I sat with that guy for an hour and a half and realized no one else was coming apart from him and I. And who was that guy? The same person they were shooting at. It was Magnus. And we went and evangelized.
That's crazy.
And the Holy Spirit moved so much that we ended up just being in one spot at some point because people were coming to line up behind other people to be prayed for. People walking out of the club to be prayed for.
That's crazy.
People
Twitter
were getting-
warriors.
people were getting
is what we
filled.
call them.
Yeah, people were getting filled with the Holy Spirit in a club area, man. People walking out. You guys are praying for people. Okay, standing behind somebody to be prayed for. And so that was for me is like understanding it like
Really want another guy
they don't
showing
really
up. Yeah.
they don't really, it's not really about caring, it's about power. Sometimes it's about power. It's about, it's about controlling. And so when you begin to realize a lot of this stuff, you begin to realize why a lot of people are in their state that they're in. And why sometimes God takes certain artists away from certain churches. Because it was a tool
Yep.
rather than understanding that person is reaching their purpose. I hear so many stories of people, and that's a perspective hardly ever looked at, because I understand why so many artists say, I grew up in the church. Because even for somebody who's doing music, they are taught this mentality of, listen, you are doing this music, it has to be done like this. And so if I'm a rapper, how do I rap in church? You know what I'm saying? You give me the platform once a month. If I'm a bass player and I want to play, but only like restaurants and bars are the only ones we're hiring, how do I play? And so we'll get to that. I'll get to that and answer that much later on what I feel in terms of, because I feel everything was coming together. So going back, I mentioned Love Revolution,
In
the
fact,
album.
yes, Love Revolution. Don't go to Love
But then,
Unleashed.
so the first album I ended dropping it, and God tells me, title is Worship of a Love Revolutionary. So, this is the cool part. So